Well, Elon Musk is going after the entire ESG agenda in a scathing tweet after S&P revealed its scores for companies last month. Elon tweets this: "Why ESG is the devil."
BlackRock is a financial giant. It's the largest investor on planet Earth with over $9 trillion in assets. That's a pile of cash equal to about 1/10 of a year's global economic activity. That means the money managers at BlackRock have a big say in how the world runs.
So what he's hinting at there, and this is a really interesting debate that's just bubbling to the surface now. A lot of congressmen and women are exploring this idea of proxy services. There's only 2 large proxy service companies in America that have, it's a duopoly, that have about 90% share of the market. So they're completely opaque in trying to provide any information. They don't give you the reasons they vote for ESG mandates or not. So they provide the voting services, they make the recommendations, and they're very pro-ESG without telling you what's in it they're pro about. You have no idea. So what Elon's really getting at is saying, wait a second, if you're a BlackRock or a Fidelity or somebody else and you're using one of these proxy services where 80 or 90% of your and my money in 401ks and savings accounts is harbored, I don't have a say in what ESG is. Tesla itself got delisted out of an index on the S&P as a non-ESG company, and my goodness, it's an EV company, and nobody can explain why that happened. So now we have a situation where we need to shine the light on ESG, and that's making a lot of these proxy companies, the 2 big ones, very uncomfortable because they make billions in fees. They're not accountable to anybody.
Here's CEO Larry Fink talking to CNBC in 2021.
And I've been on your show now probably 4 times every year at the very least for 22 years as a public company, and even longer when we were private, talking about retirement.
BlackRock is indeed influential. In the US, it owns at least 5% of most major companies. That gives the firm lots of voting power to determine how public businesses operate. BlackRock rose to the top of the financial system in a short span of time.
But really, the commander-in-chief is Larry Fink today. The guy running BlackRock is really the president of the United States, if we look at the kind of influence he's got in every industry, Joe. And he's like, well, I kind of feel bad. I'm ashamed that all the weaponization, the word, ESG is being used and all this other stuff. And Elon tweeted about the ESG. I don't know if you remember when Elon tweeted about ESG, saying the S in ESG is satanic. Okay? So this is a part where even a Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett's partner, says, look, I love Larry Fink, but I'm not interested in having an emperor.
It's hard to get more pro-environment than me. But like, we just don't like, we don't want basically some sort of like bizarre, like communism rebranded thing, which is like a lot of what ESG is, and to be inflicted upon corporate America without the knowledge of the actual shareholders, which is what's going on. And so I'm saying the public is being lied to by they're being lied to.
Kevin, Musk even went so far as to say these big investment companies could be setting themselves up for class action lawsuits.
They're pretty much running everything.
Yeah.
S&P 500, the number that 88% of the companies on S&P 500, 88% of them, the largest shareholder of those companies is either State Street, BlackRock, or Vanguard.
Just 3 companies dominate the ETF market.
BlackRock is by far the largest with roughly a 35% market share of domestic market. The next 2 are Vanguard and State Street, both somewhere in, say, the 15 to 20% market share range.
ETFs reshaped financial markets in a short amount of time. More than 80% of all assets invested over the past decade have gone to one of the big 3, according to legal scholars writing in the National Bureau of Economic Research.
And then you go even deeper, which is even the crazier part, with the education, schools, like, the biggest union we have in America, I think it's National Education something. NEA is the largest union we have. 3 million teachers are part of that union. And you look at that and you go deeper in that with open society and who's funding it, who's the money behind these organizations. Comes back, Soros, Soros, Soros. How do you feel about the kind of power they have right now to fight against them? Because this isn't like a billionaire can come out and say, I'm going to go up against these guys. They don't have a little bit of money. A billionaire to these guys is nothing. They got the kind of control that can make companies fire boards. They can replace CEOs. They can replace leaders if they don't like. They have their hands so much into it where many times when people say they, the people of power, I'm kind of like, who are the people of power? Are you convinced these guys are really running the world?
Experts warn that BlackRock's work with the Fed could raise conflicts of interest.
What's unusual here is, right, that the topmost people at the Federal Reserve are talking with the leader of the biggest asset management firm, and that in these moments of crisis, we're just going to this firm, not necessarily all other firms.
The company is now searching for new sources of yield. For example, BlackRock is pursuing real estate investments like student housing, apartments, retail, and office buildings. The firm also opened a lab in Palo Alto to explore artificial intelligence. It's even dabbling in cryptocurrency, but leadership thinks that it's little more than a footnote.
You make a good case that these proxy companies have a monopoly or duopoly in the market, but the Federal Trade Commission, I don't think they've gone after them. They have, though, gone after a lot of other companies, Kevin. You've seen this. Lena Khan's at the helm. She is an acolyte of Elizabeth Warren. I think the whole FTC setup right now is a backdoor way to give the government more control over American capitalism. But I'm really eager to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, that is an interesting narrative, but it's actually causing change in where money's being managed.
So Soros, when you're talking ESG, that story is a completely different story. You ever heard Soros's interview with 60 Minutes where he says, I see myself as a god? Have you ever seen this interview or what he says?
No.
Really?
He said he sees himself as a god.
Oh, my God. Jamie, do you mind pulling up the quote? I think it's, if you type in LA Times, Soros, God. If you type in LA Times, Soros, God, when you hear what he says, it's like the second to the last paragraph all the way to the bottom. The guy asks a question, about who he views himself as. I want to quote it properly, exactly what he says in this interview.
Is there a video of him saying
Yeah, 60 minutes. There's a video as well. So if you go all the way to the bottom, go a little bit higher, in the quote. Okay, right there. It seems that Soros believes he was anointed by God. I fancied myself as some kind of a god. If truth be known, I carried some rather potent messianic fantasies with me from childhood, which I felt I had to control, otherwise they might get me in trouble. And then on the next line, when asked by Britain's independent newspaper to elaborate on the passage, Soros says, it is sort of a disease when you consider yourself some kind of a god, the creator of everything, but I feel comfortable about it now since I began to live it out.